And we will be recording the meeting because it will be posted later for people to review and follow up. Okay, so welcome and thank you guys for being here. I don't expect this to go very long. I want to call to roll call. Victoria Curtis, not here. Okay, member Stephanie.
Here.
Hi, Stephanie. Joanne.
Here.
Thank you. And Jinwei? Don't see Jinwei yet. Okay. Okay, so the first thing we have is approval of the minutes. We've got the September minutes. Is there any comments or anything, or otherwise?
Yeah, I have some comments.
Okay.
I just wanted to comment on the second half of the minutes that go over the presentation by Will from the county. There's good coverage of what he presented, but there's no minutes from the discussion following his presentation. And I would really like to see those, the public comments, the questions, and the max
There are
comments.
20 people in the meeting.
And the max comments and questions included in the minutes. I think those are a really important part of the minutes to reflect what the East Richmond Heights residents are thinking about the presentation. So the other thing, that I'm not sure if there were any recommendations for what we would like to hear at future meetings, but those were not on the minutes. If they were, I'm not sure we did that meeting, but I would just like to state for the record that I think we should include those in the minutes so we track the suggestions for future meetings.
Okay, and I recognize that, Joanne. Edgar, do we have a recording of that meeting? September?
We do. And in the bottom of I think in the beginning of the document or at the top of the document, it has the hyperlink to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I know we have a recording, but I don't think that if we're doing written minutes, I think they should be include the entire meeting and not just a portion of the meeting.
So what I was going to suggest is let's get with Edgar and we can review that and fill that piece in so we have it in writing. Is that okay?
So that would be great. So should we postpone the review, the approval until the next meeting?
Yes.
Thank
Is that okay
you.
with you, Edgar? We can get with you and we can watch it and.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it could even be just bullet points. It doesn't have to be full sentences, just so that it's documented and we have the items that were discussed and how they were addressed.
Absolutely. Someone's going to have to make a motion and then second it for we can postpone the minutes.
Okay, I'll make the motion to postpone the minutes until the corrections were made that were discussed at this meeting to the next meeting.
Okay.
I second that.
Second by Victoria. Okay, any other? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Thank you for that, Joanne, and we'll get that taken care of. I want to recognize our co-chair, Victoria Curtis. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so treasurer's report. Ed?
3,000. 3,000 from last year, but that money does not roll over.
Could we ask you other guys to mute your, yeah, thank you. Go ahead, Edgar.
I have a question about the treasurer's report. We did discuss previously the possibility of hiring someone to do the minutes. Where are we on that?
So yeah, thank you, Joanne. So I was gonna today I was gonna ask if it's okay for our office to start soliciting folks to do the minutes, because that's going to come out of that treasury. So I know that the North Richmond MAC provides a stipend of, I think is $1,200 for the year for the person who does the minutes. And that's just what North Richmond does. So I wanted to leave, give that information to you folks, and for you folks can make a decision today, hopefully, of how much you folks want to set aside for the whoever is going to do the minutes, and then we can start advertising and looking for someone. You're muted, John.
Yeah. Okay, members, do you want to make a motion, or do you want to see something in writing first? Joanna?
I just had a question. Edgar, is that for 6 meetings? $1,200 for 6 meetings?
Yeah, that's correct.
$200 a meeting.
So actually, it was 1,200. Thank you for bringing that up, Joanna. So it's 1,200 for the North Richmond MAC, but they meet every month.
Oh, so it's $1,200 for 12 meetings. So $100 a meeting.
Yeah, and that's for the North Richmond MAC. So
Okay.
I just put that out there for you folks. You folks can decide. That doesn't have to be made today, but I would like for that to be decided before the next meeting.
Okay,
What do we need to decide? Do we need to decide a dollar amount or
Yeah.
a ceiling for a dollar amount maybe?
Right, because the money is the max money, right? Like I feel like it wouldn't be fair if I just said, all right, I'm gonna pay the treasury, whoever does the minutes, 1,500 or 1,200, and that's the money from the MAC. It's not the money that is not allocated to our office, is allocated to the MAC. So I thought it was fair for you folks to decide how much you value someone to do the minutes.
Does somebody review the minutes before it comes to each MAC after the person does them? Is there a
Yeah.
period? Okay,
So after they do the minutes, it gets shared with the MAC, and then the MAC reviews it and approves or denies it.
no, I went interim. Does your office in any way review them before it comes to us, or?
That's a good question. I'm not quite sure. I'm sure, I think the way that it goes, from my understanding, is that the person who does the minutes, they do the minutes, and then they share it with the district coordinator, who is Tanya for North Richmond, and then she shares it with the MAC. Or it's either that way, or the person does the minutes and then shares it to the MAC and the district coordinator at the same time.
okay,
Well, I would like to move forward on this because I'd like to hire someone as soon as possible so we can catch up on the minutes and keep going forward. So do any of the other MAC members have a ceiling for the amount we're willing to approve?
Stephanie?
I just had a question because I know that on Zoom meetings, we actually have the ability to do a transcript. So I'm wondering, and I do know that we're not necessarily permanently going to be hosting Zoom meetings, but I'm just kind of wondering if, since we have technological capabilities, if that's something that would affect it. And I don't think that gets around needing eyes on a transcript to make sure that, it actually captured, what was said correctly and there's not grammatical mistakes or, mishearing, that kind of thing. But it does seem to me that might be something we want to factor in, is the fact that we could use just, the transcript function on this.
I'm not aware of how it works myself. So I really can't comment on that. Anyone else? Joanna Pace?
Thanks. I'd like to suggest that perhaps whoever gets hired to do it the first time, look into what Stephanie's talking about, using that tool, and see if it helps make them more accurate or whatever. Because I don't think there's any way you can pass off a transcript, a verbatim transcript, as minutes. I don't know, and to get to Joanne's point, we're trying to come up with a document that has a bullet, real easy to follow, to track. This request was made on this date, and I think that it might be too voluminous to have the entire transcript to really make it a practical tool. So I would suggest that we get some kind of little job description together real quickly, and that the MAC people, the people who are actually on the council, have some kind of discussion with each other and vote on it.
All right, so I I have a suggestion. Edgar, can I get with you and you can let us know what's already in place elsewhere, and we can send that out to the members here, and we'll review and then make a decision then. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay. All right. So with that, is it okay if we move on and I'll work with Edgar. We'll get that out to the members. Okay. All right. Anything else, Edgar, and Treasurer's report?
That's all I have.
Okay, we'll move on right away to the presentations. The first one is Lieutenant Rodriguez is here from the Sheriff's Department. Mark, welcome, and I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. First off, are you guys able to hear me okay?
Kind of muffled.
Yeah, I apologize for that. I was told earlier today that the Zoom microphone, my audio is not coming across very well, so I'll have to get that fixed. It seems to be working fine on Teams, but not Zoom, so I got to get that addressed. So I apologize if you guys aren't able to hear me very well. I'll start off with the reports for the select crime trends. In November, we had 4 select crimes. In December, we had 5. In January, we had 2. All of them still are property crimes. We had 1 recovered stolen vehicle in January and 1 residential burglary. And I believe that was on McBride Avenue. So other things of note that we're seeing is for the month of January, we had 89 calls for service. We generated 16 reports. Of those reports, the bulk of them are property crimes. And we're still seeing a lot of catalytic converter thefts. So we had 6 of them reported out of your guys' area just in January alone. So that's continues to be a problem, not just on the west end of the county, but I would say throughout the state. They are the legislature is taking measures to try and make it more difficult. They're increasing fines on recyclers that accept these. They're also looking at ways to pass legislation so that every catalytic converter will have some form of identifying information associated with it. So that way you can't just take it and recycle the materials. So our investigations division has made some headway. They have identified some leads and some catalytic convert thefts. However, it's just such a prevalent crime that it continues to be a challenge for us. So other things of note, today the West Contra Costa Fire Safe Council met for their quarterly meeting. Some of the things they're looking at there are primarily obviously fire-based. So some of the various agencies on the west end were represented. But the big concern continues to be evacuations and how to plan for them and different routes. All of the districts seem to be making a lot of headway with getting rid of some of the fuels and mitigating some of the risks associated with that. So they're looking at different target areas, but I know from Contra Costa Fire Protection District, 12 has done a lot of work out on the west end, and they've been able to mitigate some of those risks. So I'll let Chief Gates address some of those concerns, and I'm sure he will in his presentation. Other things of note that we have next week, you guys may see some activity at Adams Middle School. There's going to be a walkthrough there. Some of our staff with our mutual aid mobile field force, otherwise known as like our crowd control team, will be walking through the school. They're going to be doing a site inspection to identify any hazards and planning for their training day, which is a countywide training day. That's not actually going to be until August though. So, but if you do see the police cars out there from various agencies, that's what's going on. No need to worry, and that should be on next Wednesday. So, if you guys get any activities here or get any messages on Nextdoor or any other community apps, that's what's going on. If you guys just pass that information along. Outside of that, nothing real major to note. There was, when we had the storms, there was a resident who had a large tree that was actually on his property that fell, and thankfully he was sitting in the other room when it came through the roof. So he wasn't injured, just structural damage to his home, but they were able to get out and ensure that there was no risk of any other hazards as far as gas lines or electrical lines or anything like that. So we were busy with flooding, down trees, down power lines, and not in your guys' area, but one where there's actually a small gas leak as well, and a PG type structure there. So that shut down the roadways for the majority of the day. Other than that, we've increased staffing in January, so the majority of our shifts now have 7 deputies assigned to the shift. And it come July, we should also have an in-house detective, which should help expedite some of the follow-up cases. So, and also hopefully an administrative starting at each station now. So things are looking good. The benefit with the additional staffing, obviously, is reduced response times and allows our deputies to remain in your guys' area and available for service. Whereas previously, if we were operating with 4, you can imagine only 4 deputies on the west end of the county. It gets spread pretty thin when we get priority calls. That requires a minimum of 2 response. So that's all I have at this time. Any questions for me?
Okay, thank you, Mark. First, for the council members, do any of you have any questions for Lieutenant Rodriguez? Okay, anyone else that's online here? Any members of the public? Any questions for our lieutenant? Okay, Mark, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll see what's going on at Adams because we're always driving by it. So thank you for being with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me.
Okay, Chief Gage, I'm glad to see you, and I'm going to turn it over to Contra Costa County Fire Protection.
Nice to see you too, John. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lon Gates. I'm the Assistant Fire Chief, or one of the Assistant Fire Chief for Contra Costa County Fire. Appreciate the opportunity to present tonight. I'll try to provide a brief overview and then kind of focus in on a community wildfire prevention, because I know that is a subject that's near and dear to everyone's hearts in East Richmond Heights. So a quick operations update. Like Lieutenant Rodriguez stated, we have been dealing with a lot of the severe weather events that occurred throughout the beginning of January. We love the rain. It doesn't all have to happen at once, but the amount of rain that we got was very beneficial for us overall, but it came pretty hard and pretty fast and caused a lot of emergencies and damage along the way. We utilized the OES pre-positioning program that we use in the summertime to be able to staff additional resources through a state grant program. So we were able to upstaff a command team, a task force of engines from throughout Contra Costa County, quite a few out of the West County departments, Richmond, Contra Costa Fire, Rodeo Hercules, Pinole, and we all worked together to respond to a number of significant emergencies over the severe storms that impacted us. We utilized our hand crew, Crew 12, to assist in keeping roadways open and assist county public works crews. So we found another great use for our hand crew. So our hand crew is out there doing some very good work, clearing roadways and clearing some streams that prevented some additional flooding. And that was really beneficial. The other thing we have at Contra Costa Fire that we don't utilize that often is our Swiftwater Rescue Team. So we activated our Swiftwater Rescue Team for about 7 days. They responded to multiple rescues throughout the county. We had a pretty significant flooding issue in the city of Pittsburgh, and we utilized our water rescue team to evacuate some residents that were impacted and had to be basically boated away from their home. That's kind of the operations update. Our training division continues to train and educate our personnel. Our Fire Academy, Academy 58, is getting ready to graduate on February 15th. So we'll be adding 27 or so firefighters to our ranks, 5 of which are paramedics. And we've already scheduled and are getting ready to do our next Fire Academy in March. That will be a little bit smaller. It's going to be about 15 additional firefighters to support the ongoing needs of the fire district and expansion of the fire district. One of the biggest things going on for us in West County is the Pinole contract. So that's something that I'm working on to assist the Pinole Fire Department in becoming part of Contra Costa Fire. A part of that combination of bringing the Pinole Fire Department into Con Fires, we're actually going to be able to get the resources in place to be able to open the Pinole Valley Fire Station. So Station 74 out in Pinole Valley has been closed for almost 12 years. And through funding that was realized through Measure X, through the support of Supervisor Joya and a cooperative effort between Contra Costa Fire and the city of Pinole, we are bringing the Pinole Fire Department within Con Fire and reopening Fire Station 74. That's all scheduled to take place March 1st. We're going to have an opening ceremony for Station 74 on Saturday, March 4th. So keep an eye out for that. I'm sure the supervisor will share the invite. That's definitely open for the public. Also, our academy graduation, if you're so inclined, if you've never been to a fire academy graduation, it's a great time. It's free. So we do our academy graduation at the Lesher Center in Walnut Creek. You can just go to our website and you'll get all the details. It's open to the public. Bring your friends. We'd love to see everybody out there celebrating a big night for 27 of our firefighters joining our department. Last update is just to keep you informed as the public. I've explained on calls prior that Contra Costa Fire oversees the 911 emergency ambulance system within the county. So we work with American Medical Response under a public-private partnership to provide 911 ambulance service to the county. One of the challenges that we've been facing as of late, has to do with COVID impacts and a lot of other impacts from the closure of Doctors Hospital, is emergency room offload delays. So oftentimes our ambulances are delayed up to an hour or more, just transferring the patients that we take care of in the field to the hospital. So we're working with the Contra Costa County local emergency medical services agencies and all the hospitals in the county to try to improve that situation and improve reducing that hospital offload time for emergency patients. We work closely with pretty much every fire department in the state, and Alameda County has a model policy for trying to improve those offload times. So we're utilizing their policy and working with our local hospitals to try to improve the situation. But what it boils down to is they're not building that many more hospitals, and hospitals are closing, and emergency room space and hospital space is at a premium. And this time of year with coronavirus and flu, hospital acuity goes way up in terms of patient load. So that impacts us and impacts our ability to respond effectively to emergencies. So we're working on that problem, but it is something that affects our ability to serve the public. The last item is kind of what Lieutenant Rodriguez mentioned earlier about wildland fire mitigation. I put a couple links in the chat if you're so inclined to use those links. Contra Costa County Fire, as the lead agency, has utilized some funding through Measure X to provide a wildfire mitigation program for the county. We organize that program under a community program called FireWise. It's a national program. It's a model program for how to protect your community from wildfire. Utilizing the Measure X funding and the guidance from FireWise, we've developed a system that the public can access to improve the situation within their communities. So under the wildfire mitigation program, you and your neighbors can organize community chipping days. You can recognize where there's compromised evacuation routes with overgrown vegetation. You can look at some of the strategic plan and programs that are put in place to improve the situation and fuel situation. You can help organize a shaded fuel break or just vegetation management programs and fuel reduction. So I put that link in the chat. This would really require kind of a more extensive presentation for the public, but it is a very valuable program. And just go to this website, spend a few minutes kind of understanding what a FireWise program is, and how you can utilize some of the funds that are available to improve the fire safety within your community. That is the end of my report, unless there's any questions. Thank you.
Okay, for our members first, questions, Joanne?
Yeah, I'm just wondering with the ambulance services, is there any way or any other examples of jurisdictions that have a policy or a contract way when the ambulance service is overloaded to trip down to a public service ambulance? And I'm just wondering if there's a shortage, what happens in case of a disaster where there is more need for more ambulance service?
So those are really good questions. So the 911 ambulance service that serves 85% of the county of Contra Costa is through a public-private partnership. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. So it is a publicly managed program that provides, I think, a very good service to the public. There are 2 other fire department ambulance providers within the county of Contra Costa, San Ramon Valley Fire and Moraga Renda Fire. We all work together under a mutual aid program. So anytime Moraga Renda needs help, we help them. San Ramon helps us. So we all work together to share resources so we can provide the best possible service. In case of a disaster, we have a mutual aid system that's countywide, statewide. So we can reach out to adjacent counties for additional resources, whether they be fire trucks or ambulances, to be able to serve a greater need when our resources are depleted. We routinely work very closely with, please forgive me, I'm having a little bit of a brain fade. There is a local fire department resource right over the line in Alameda County that provides a fire department ambulance, and we work very closely with them. We provide them with assistance. They provide us with assistance.
Thank you. It makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah, there's a system in place, but the system is very drawn down. And the issues that we're experiencing here in Contra Costa County, they also experience in Alameda County, Solano County, Santa Clara County. It's not just a Contra Costa problem. It's really a regional and even national problem.
Okay, any other members with questions? Anyone on the call here that would have any questions? Okay, Chief, thank you very much. Appreciate you being with us tonight, and I hope you can stay for the presentation.
You're welcome. I'll hang around for a little bit. I'm missing the State of the Union with everybody else.
Okay. Okay, I don't believe Highway Patrol is here, are they, Edgar?
I don't see them.
Okay. All right, then Edgar, it's to you on any county issues.
Yes, so I'm happy to see everyone, and thank you to Chief Ghosh. I always butcher your last name, Chief.
Gage.
Gooch. All right, we will get through this. All right, and Lieutenant Rodriguez.
It's like an A, it's Gage.
Gage, there we go. Gage.
Thank you, John.
Gage. All right, I'm gonna have to write that down. So I'm happy that you folks were able to make it. I know this is outside of the usual schedule, so thank you. Quick update. So the California Highway Patrol, last time I spoke with the officer that came to our meetings, he said that there was a change in responsibilities and geographical responsibilities, and the public information officer that was assigned to our area was reassigned, and there's no one who can attend the meeting. So they're always saying that if there's any questions that we have, to send them to me, and then I can send it over to, I guess, one of the officers that are assigned to our beat whenever they're working, and they'll try to address as soon as possible. So now I'll go to the county updates. The big update that John wanted me to share with you folks is that starting March, we will go back to in-person meetings. And there's going to be, that means that for the council members, we will have to meet in person, but for the presenters, like Lieutenant Rodriguez, would have to, you folks can still zoom in as well as the public can still zoom in. There are exceptions to council members not attending in person. And that is that we need at least a quorum which that is majority, and for us, that would be 3 council members in person. If there's 3 council members in person, that means that the 4th person can zoom in from home, but they can zoom from home if they post the agenda, if we post the agenda, and in the agenda, we state that this council member is going to be zooming in. And this is what was going to be controversial. And when John told me, I couldn't believe it. And I was like, are you sure? He's like, yeah. So if you decide to zoom in from wherever you're at, you're going to have to let us know in advance. We can put an agenda that you're going to be zooming in, and then you have to share. And then you have to, there we go. And then you have to share the location that you're going to be zooming in from. And that's for the public can know essentially where you're at. And that's just following the Brown Act. So that's why a lot of council members do not zoom in whenever we have the in-person ordinance. So that's what John wanted me to share. And it's just for folks can be prepared for our in-person meetings, which will begin in March. All right.
Edgar or Joanne, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just curious, when we have presentations like for the historic section and their PowerPoints, are we going to be able to project those both at the in-person meeting and to those on Zoom?
Yes. So, yeah. So I forget where the East Richmond Heights MAC used to meet in person, but the El Sobrante MAC meets at the El Sobrante Library, and I have this. Essentially, I have this. If there's a TV wherever we're meeting, I can connect my laptop and I can project the whatever presentation that we're doing there, and that's where we're going to see all the Zoom participants. Joanna.
Yeah. Joanna, go ahead.
Edgar, now I'm speaking on behalf of Open Door United Methodist Church, which has been the host of the in-person meetings. And indeed, earlier in the pandemic, when we thought we were returning to in-person meetings, James Lyons, the previous person in your position, and 4 people from the county's tech team went to Open Doors Friendship Hall and checked out our tech situation. We have a locked cabinet with a big monitor, and they either gave us then what we needed, or they promised they would give us. There was some part that we needed, I can't remember, but there were a number of people in the county's tech team who were there, so they probably have notes and can tell you where they left it. Because we thought we were going back to in person, like this was like a year ago, and then we didn't. So we're set up to have people come back and see each other with in person. Yay!
Right. No, yes. And I think that the week before we have our meeting, I'll go to the site with the county's tech folks and see if we make sure that we have everything that we need for the meeting. And
Thank you, Edgar.
yes.
Oh, and just to say that it doesn't impact the max budget at all, because the church donates the use of the building. Normally, when a public uses it, we charge for it, but we donate it as a service to the community.
Thank you. And in October, I had the El Sobrante MAC meeting in person, and it went really well. We have a camera that attaches to the TV, and then so it looks like we're in a conference room. And it creates any space into a conference room, and then everyone can zoom in. And if you're zooming in, you'll look at us as if we're in a conference, and then we'll see everyone in their little boxes like we're doing right now. So I think it's going to work really good. I know that the mic situation is really well, so it'll be fun. And I think the overall sentiment for the October meeting with the El Sobrante MAC, everyone was just happy to see each other and start that transition of in-person meetings. So yeah, so that's gonna start in March, and there are exceptions to not being able to attend. And from my understanding, you can have you can be excused two times a year, and that's if you have an emergency that comes up, or you have like a childcare issue, or you know, in those cases you can be excused, but presumably that can only, there's a limit to two, right? But we don't really know, we can't predict those kind of things. So if it does happen more, let me know and we'll work through it. So, okay, so the next point I have is the county's working on a road diet study. I think I might have presented earlier last year, which the road diet's on San Pablo Dam Road, and it's from Castro Ranch Road to Appian Way. But the county found that it would be better if they did it from Castro Ranch Road to May Road. And that would only increase traffic during the peak time for 1 minute. It will only add a minute and a couple of seconds to your commute. Going westbound, going eastbound at peak traffic time, I think only increase a couple of seconds to your commute. So that's good. It doesn't mean we're going to break ground. So now our office is responsible to doing outreach around the community, around the district, letting folks know whether this is something that they want to do or something they want to see in our county. Essentially, a road diet is instead of a 4-lane street, it becomes a 3-lane, 1 lane going each way, and then 1 lane in the middle to turn. And they will also include a designated bike lane. And the purpose behind it is not just bike safety, it's also pedestrian safety, it's traffic safety, because what this is going to do is make drivers more cautious of cyclists and hopefully lower their speed while not increasing your congestion and a crazy amount of traffic time. So the next step for that project is doing outreach. I'm working with John to set up a preliminary outreach plan, which hopefully we'll do in a couple of weeks. And then from there, we'll start conducting outreach, but we wouldn't break ground until later this year. So as soon as I have more information, I will come back to the MAC and give you folks an update, but that's something I wanted to put on you guys' radar. East Bay Mud reached out and they would like to present to the MAC. It looks like that might be in one of our spring or early summer meetings. They're presenting to the El Sobrante MAC, I believe in May or April. And then shortly after that, they would like to coordinate with the East Richmond Heights MAC and see whenever they can be on the agenda. And they want to go over the budget and different rates, essentially the presentation that they do every year.
We have good questions for them too. I appreciate that. So.
And let's see. I know there was some questions about Adams Middle School, and this is more about the Envision 2040 and the land use designation for the area. So Adams Middle School is going to be designated as a mixed use designation, and the mixed use designation is essentially both residential and commercial. And then the commercial designation, that doesn't mean essentially that what the county is aiming for is a commercial use which is more like small businesses that are like the Arlington market, nothing that's a big box business. They wouldn't approve anything like that. And for the residential units, it's 0 to 50 units, and it won't be 50 units. That's just the ceiling. So that's something I just wanted to clarify. But I did ask Will Nelson, who's the principal planner for the Envision 2040, if he can elaborate a little bit about the policies that will be applied to the Mira Vista Elementary site. And the reason why I asked him if he can clarify the land use designation for that, it's because there was concerns that if they were to sell Mira Vista, what would happen if it was mixed use? Like, can someone buy it? What's going to happen to the park that's on the campus? I know community members wanted to preserve that property. We'll preserve the park specifically. So Will Nelson said that there's going to be a policy policy will state that a portion of the property will be redesignated to the parks and recreation in the event that the campus is sold for private development. So if the property is sold, there's going to be a policy in place that will preserve the park that's on campus.
Wow. Okay.
Um,
Looking for, Joanne has a question.
I have so many questions today, I'm sorry. But the 0 to 50, that's per net acre, right? That's just not a limit of 50 for the site. It's a based on a net acre, so we don't know what the capacity is exactly. I just don't want to get people to think it's 50 because it may be less, it may be more. I don't know what the acreage is there or.
right. No, you're correct. That's right. And from my understanding, that's right. That's 0.50, 0 to 50 per acreage. Yes. And yeah, that's correct. Do you have any other questions, Joanne?
No, thank you.
Okay, Edgar, is that it?
That's all I have.
All right, any questions from our members? Any questions from anyone attending tonight? All right, Edgar, thank you for that. And thanks for touching on that Adams thing that came up.
Yep.
All right, we're going to move on to discussion items. Tonight, we don't have discussion items to go over. Subcommittee reports, our land use committee, Joanne, if I could turn it over to you.
Yes, we have not had any applications come to us since the last meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Agenda items, speakers for upcoming East Richmond Heights MAC. I don't have anything on that yet. As we get to that point, we'll bring that up with you, Edgar. Anybody have some ideas on that? We are going to continue with our historical presentations, and we'll get to that in a minute. Joanna.
John, I think it's time that if the community wants another art and music festival, that should be discussed, or if there's some way to support the people who volunteered to run it in the past. I don't think any of them are on here. I volunteered last year, but I won't be volunteering next year. I would like to, mention it in the next newsletter if there is one, so.
Okay, I understand. Edgar, if you put that on your notes, we need to regroup on that. I have some things to say, but I won't say it publicly about that because it costs me money. But anyway, we actually should talk about that. I know that the whole neighborhood would love to have another one, and I don't see any reason why we can't. So, all right, thanks for bringing that up. Anyone else? Okay. Oh, now it's my time. And we will have public comment after this. So if you have something else you want to bring up that was not on the agenda, we will get to that point. So this is an unusual historic presentation that I've had for years. I've had bits and pieces, and I actually did some research and dug up a whole lot more information. So Edgar, are we ready? Hold on one second here. I need to.
We can share over. Yep, you should have screen sharing capabilities.
Okay. I think I need to share it before I open it because it takes up my whole screen. Let me see.
And John showed me the presentation. It's really good. So
yeah, give me a second here to figure this out. All right, Edgar, I'm not seeing. Oh, I know. I have to expand this. Give me just a second, guys. I haven't done this before. All right, shared screen. Here we go. Got it. All right, here we go. I am going to read from the script because I want to not take a lot of your time. So if you have some questions, we can always go back on this, but I've got a presentation to you about Wildcat Canyon. I'm not sure if any of you have ever seen before. All right. Here we go. Edgar, do I look good?
you look fantastic.
Okay. All right, here we go. So I first want to give you a little introduction just so you understand where we're going here. My family moved into East Richmond Heights in 1960. My friends and I love Wildcat Canyon, just a block and a half right behind us. And our parents always let us explore the canyon a lot. We always found our way out and always got home with stories to tell. When I started at Kennedy High School the first year it opened, at the invitation of Fire Chief Ray Martin, I joined the Richmond Fire Explorers, which later turned into the Richmond Fire Cadets. It's a program for teenagers to learn about firefighting in the fire department and train towards a career. I would never have known about tonight's story in the canyon if I hadn't joined that program. So I'm going to start in 1968 when we all showed up on a Saturday for routine training and were told we were going to spend the day checking for fire trails out in Wildcat Canyon. We headed out on 2 small trucks on the canyon road from Alvarado Park, crossing barbed wire gates that were easy to get through, and going up on the Conlin Trail. What we saw at that top was astonishing. We found ourselves on an active military base, people in Army uniforms, driving Army Jeeps and trucks around Army-looking buildings with radar moving around. I had no idea that was up there. This was one of 12 permanent Nike missile bases around the Bay Area, and ours in Wildcat Canyon was a double site. It was actually the largest one around the bay with 2 sites combined right next to each other. These were built because at that time during the Cold War, Nike missiles were the last line of defense against the Soviet Union. The belief was at that time, the Soviets could fly airplanes with hydrogen atomic bombs into the Bay Area to destroy our military bases that were here, the Presidio, Treasure Island, Mare Island, Hamilton Air Force Base, Travis Air Force Base, Alameda Naval Air Station, and more. The red dots are where the bases were. I'm just going to focus on ours in Wildcat Canyon, but at the end I'll mention number 88 you see in Marin County on the left there. So where was all this? Here we are looking at East Bay Regional Park's map of Wildcat Canyon. And you see in the lower left where we live, East Richmond Heights. I'm going to color it purple, roughly. Across the canyon to the east in orange is the radar site. In the blue area is the neighborhood where family homes were built for the permanent workers at the base. The red is the underground missile silos with their launching pads on top. And the green was the rest of the military base. This was where they had the ready room, administration, offices, maintenance, storage buildings. There was a mess hall to feed everyone, 3 large barracks to house other temporary workers and people coming up to stay for a few days, athletic courts, hobby shop. There was a gas dispensing station, grease rack, motor repair shops, everything that was needed at that time. I was able to get a blueprint. This is an as-built drawing of everything in 1965. And essentially it's 4 areas out there in the canyon. The radar site on Potrero Ridge, the houses, the missile silos, and the base, which had everything else. So here we are in 1986, looking down at what the radar site was at the end of Nimitz. This is where Nimitz Way ended. The houses. These were 10 single-family homes and 13 duplexes, which provided 36 3-bedroom homes. One of the duplexes here in 1968 in the lower left is gone. I don't know what happened to that one. And you see the square thing at the bottom right there, just across the street. That is one of the missile silos. Look at how close that was to the neighborhood. Here are the underground 6 silo missiles sites. All you can see, of course, is the concrete launching pads on top. And here's the rest of the base, all those other buildings I mentioned. So looking down as the crow flies, look here at the left, at the top. On the left is, that's pointing, arrows pointing to Del Monte Avenue, right by the golf course. And if you go straight east is the radar site. And then below, past that and below, the housing, the silos, and the base. You can see Rifle Range Road. I know many people know about it. In those days, it went all the way down to the old horses stables that used to be down there. So back up to 1955, the two radar sites right next to each other have been developed. Here's a better picture looking east of the radar site. Now, I won't get too technical for you guys, but the radar worked like this. One unit on the right was the acquisition radar, and it picked up what was coming in from what was actually an Air Force base on Mount Tamalpais. That was the primary facility looking out over the ocean to see, you know, what threat could be coming to this part of Northern California. Another unit tracked the incoming plane with the nuclear bomb that's up there. And then the other radar tracked the Nike missile that was launched from Wildcat Canyon. And the goal was that it launched the Nike missile and guide it to the intercept point and blow that plane up with a nuclear missile, hopefully over the ocean before it got too close. So here's a little better picture, 1955, of the base and a launching pad just up the hill from the San Pablo Dam Reservoir. And if you look down here, there's San Pablo Dam Road. So around the middle, which has an area that goes out that way, just right straight up this cliff, here's the 6 Nike missile launching sites up there and the rest of the base. Underground, those concrete bunkers, this is what was in there. They had 4 Nike missiles loaded and ready to go at all times. And they had 6 more also stored underground right next to it. The 4 that were there could be loaded onto an elevator and brought up very quickly. And this is what it looked like up on top and down below, with the 4 missiles being ready to go above ground there. Now, this is a picture that I don't know that anybody has really seen. It is declassified, and this is the Nike missile base in 1959. And look at this, we've got 4 missiles ready to launch just above the San Pablo Reservoir. And look up here to the north, there's El Sobrante right there. I was amazed to see this. But even more astonishing is my next picture. We're going to turn and look west. 1959, there's East Richmond Heights. And look at what we've got here. 24 Nike missiles ready to fire just across the canyon from where we were. Now, unfortunately, this day they took the picture, it was real smoggy and you can't see South Richmond and the bay out there, but that's what's down there. And then next to the word west is Angel Island. So you ready for more? There's another piece, another twist to this story. In the late 1960s, ICBMs, those are long-range intercontinental ballistic missiles, rendered the Nike missile bases obsolete. And these bases around the world began to shut down. The military took what they wanted from our base, but they left most of the buildings and houses there, unlocked, and the underground silos became a place to party. This was around 1970, 71, and I say this from personal experience. I was one of those kids with friends who would go up and explore them with Coleman lanterns. The government had hired private security guards and removed their military police. So they had security guards up there to watch the area, but they never caught us. In fact, sometimes we were up there, nobody was there. We had the entire base to ourselves. Now, I'm going to back up to 1969. Oh, sorry. Where am I at here? I'll continue that, but I just wanted to share this with you. This is the picture I bought from historic aerials of all of Wildcat Canyon in 1968. And I chose this because it's high resolution. I was able to zoom in on all those pictures I've shown you so far, but you see up here in the upper corner, There's the Wildcat Canyon Road going out there. Here's the golf course. East Richmond Heights is all in this area. And then straight out, like I say, from Del Monte Avenue, you come to the radar site, the housing, the base, everything is out there. So I decided to buy this so I would have a copy and be able to use it. And you can also see all of the canyon and the Hayward Fault, which we're on top of, all the way down to here. There's Jewel Lake down there, Chilton Park, where the nature area is, and all that stuff is down there. But at the same time, we had this whole base going on out here. All right, sorry, I missed one slide. I'll move forward. So November 20th, 1968, Indians moved onto Alcatraz. 89 men, women, and children occupied Alcatraz, and the group Indians of All Tribes Incorporated was formed. That's a whole nother story, so I'm not going to go into that, but I'll end it with this. After 4 historic Alcatraz buildings were destroyed by fire, and a super tanker ship had a collision because the lighthouse in Foghorn wasn't working, the government removed the Indians in June of 1971. On June 14th, 1971, 50 Indians took over the Nike base. Indians also took over other abandoned Nike military sites, one Nike base in Chicago at the same time was a big deal, and other areas. They had to pack everything in. There was no food, no water, no electricity, or anything else working at the base. And they moved into the houses, which were still there. And this is the main street going through there. The houses were boarded up as far as the windows, but the doors were all open. And they were all unlocked. So I'm going to show you a short video here. It's only about 2 minutes. And the sound that you can hear will start with the security guard talking.
This morning, we haven't interfered with fire. This morning at 4 o'clock, my partner and I were startled by a knock on the door, which was very unusual for that time of morning for being in this area. And I asked who it was, and they informed me that they were Indians. And at that time, I took for granted it was just some long hairs up here because I camped out for the night, looking for Indians.
The audio is going out. Can anyone else hear it? No, we can't hear it, John.
Okay, all right. This is about to end here. So he's asking John Trudell, the Indian who was also the spokesman for Alcatraz, what about Alcatraz? Would you take that back? Do you want to go back? And he said, it depends if the government wants to trade the Nike missile base for Alcatraz. Anyway, that's pretty much it on the video clip here. And but you could see the whole area that was out there in the canyon, and the East Bay Regional Park Rangers, which of course are now is the police force out there, but they didn't do anything, but things did not last out there. I think what happened is that there was a fire out there with no water. It got really bad, and that was the end of the occupation out there. Everything at the site just continued to deteriorate. Things rusted. This is an elevator door. It's similar to the one that was out there. And you could look down the hatches. Water was leaking into the underground silos. They all had doors like this where you'd walk down the stairs to go in. The last time I was there at that time, one of the missile silos had about 3 feet of water, and it was like an indoor swimming pool under there. I'm guessing it was spring water or something, but at that point, so just a quick look back, 1958, here's the active missile base at that time. And then I'll take us to 1980, everything is gone. The only thing left that's still out there is the radar site has got a couple concrete slabs. And, but that's it. There's nothing identifying what was out there. So I'm going to end with the Nike missile site. I mentioned 88. This is the only complete Nike base that still exists today. It is part of the National Park Service in Marin County at Fort Barry in the Marin Headlands. And I highly recommend taking a couple hours to tour it. It's free, and you get to it by going through a long tunnel near Sausalito out towards the ocean. And it's up there on the hill. It is a complete Nike missile base with missiles that are dummies, of course, and they will raise them up above the ground so you can see how they worked. And you also even get to go underground in those silos, just like what we have here in Wildcat Canyon, and you can see what they look like at that time. So with that, they're open Thursday, Friday, Saturday every week, as long as it's not raining, from 12:30 to 3:30. And on Saturdays, they have some Nike veterans sometimes there to talk about what their life was like, you know, working at these sites. So you have to offer my credits here. Historic Aerials is where I got that amazing shot, and it's quite a website. They have the largest collection of aerial shots from weather balloons and the military and airplanes across the United States. And you can pull up their viewer and you can kind of look around, you know, wherever you want to go in the United States and see by year where they have pictures. So you can go back into the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and they can put it together. I did have them sew my picture together, so there's some overlapping, but I wanted the whole canyon to be able to use for this and have a copy of. The Nike Historical Society, which maintains that site out there at the National Park Service, Military Museum, militarystandard.com. The video I got is one of many that's available through San Francisco State University, their digital archive system, and those are mostly what they call B-rolls. That's where Channel 5 and Channel 7 just let their cameras run with to capture what was going on out there at the time, and then they cut and pasted whatever pieces they wanted to use for our TV broadcasts that we saw back in 1971. And then, of course, public domain and my own experiences out there way back in those days. So with that, that's the end of my presentation. Does anyone have any questions? And I'm going to close this so I can go back and see you all. There.
Thank you, John. That was very enjoyable.
Okay. You guys got to see it and hear it, okay? Because I
Mhm.
couldn't see what was going on, so. Okay. There you have it, Wildcat Canyon. And there's a lot more that went on in Wildcat Canyon that, you know, we can talk about and show in the future. So with that, let's go back to our agenda. We've got announcements. We've got 2 alternative seats. Hari Lambda moved to El Cerrito, so he's not an alternate now. So anyone that's interested in becoming an alternate, we would please contact us or John Joya's office to get you on. At this point, any other questions or comments? We'll go to public. Okay, public comment. Is there anything not on the agenda tonight that anyone would like to talk?
John, excuse me, John.
Yeah, John.
Going back to your presentation. So in 1959, all of that was still there.
Oh, yes.
So my parents opened that store, you know, the Arlington Market in 1955. So nobody knew there was a base over there.
No, and I wouldn't have known if I hadn't been in that fire department Explorers.
I was a year old when they opened the store. So
Oh, yeah. No, that base was out there all these years, and then I was just blown away by what was there. But You can find some things if you just Google it online, Nike Missile Base, and it's actually City of Richmond property. It's Tilden Park, but now, I mean, it's now, Wildcat Canyon Regional. Elizabeth, you had your hand up? You're muted right now. There you go.
Yeah, thank you, John. That was a great presentation. Two things. I continue my quest like Don Quixote to find copies of the minutes of these meetings. I really don't. I've gone to the place where it says minutes on the Contra Costa website, and I still haven't found them. And I think it would be a good idea if they were included in Edgar's memo that he sends out announcing the meeting. This is a public meeting and we should be able to see the minutes.
Yeah.
And I have, there's a thing that says minutes 2022 and there's nothing in it. So.
Yeah. And I know going back, James left. I'm not sure where the minutes ended up. Edgar, I guess I'd have to ask you, is there anything that can be done there?
I'll have to check where James' minutes are. I'm gonna have to go on his file, but yeah, I think that the first meeting that I have is the minutes that we're doing right now. Or was it in spring? I'll have to find those minutes and start uploading them to the 2022 file, because I assume that they were uploaded, but I will make sure that they are.
Yeah. Okay, and I also just wanted to mention that running the transcript in Zoom, I see you did turn it on. And that could be a help when someone has a big microphone problem. It could be a help, and it would be a courtesy for people with hearing issues anyway. So I think it should be a part of it as long as we're using Zoom. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Elizabeth. Anyone else? Any comments?
This is Fran. I don't see a way to raise my hand, but
Hi, Fran.
yeah, thanks a lot for the presentation. I really was fascinated that link between the Mount Tam base and here. And in over there, they took the top of a whole mountain off to build something, and here it was under our nose for so long. So that's an interesting link, and great to learn that. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I had no idea till I got into getting the nuts and bolts of this. There was so much I actually found online. That was the Mill Valley Air Force Station on the side of Mount Tamalpais, not up on the top.
Right, yeah. And it was abandoned too. I think it's still a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
But I heard stories of there would be families up there, and the military children would be bused down to school and back. I'm not sure how much, if they were top secret or not, but that was an interesting angle.
At our Wildcat Canyon base, they had a whole children's play yard there where the homes were built. And they had to bus people. The only way you could come and go, were supposed to come and go, were from the paved Nimitz Way that would take you to Inspiration Point in Tilden Park. And then from there, I'm not sure where they would go, whether to Berkeley or to Orinda from there. All right, thanks for that, Fran. Anything else? So we are in public comment. Is there anything else? Joanna? You're on mute.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I got distracted by the transcript feature. I was looking at it. It's very cool. That'll definitely make taking notes easier. And thank you for the presentation, John. I assume that we'll be able to go back to the recording and show this presentation if we or direct somebody to it on the YouTube channel. Is that right? Yeah, because especially that shot with the missiles there with our neighborhood in background. It's amazing. I just want to announce that the next newsletter will come out on April 13th. And so if you want to write an article, get it to me by March 31st. Or if you want to suggest an article to me, or, help me write something, I would love to hear from you. And we did distribute about 200 copies, hard copies of the newsletter. And we're always welcoming new distributors or deliverers. We have about a half dozen people who do that. And I have to say the people on Ralston and Roseland are particularly interested in the newsletter because they, of course, have pretty much the most at stake when Adams finally does something, because they're literally under the school. So let me know if you need a newsletter. Thanks.
And thank you for bringing those up. And I handed out my part on my street. Anything else for public comment? Joanna.
No, Joanne, okay, yeah, I was just gonna volunteer. Okay, I was just gonna volunteer to do the next historic presentation if there is no one else volunteering to do it.
Okay.
I'd be happy to take, if somebody else wants to, be happy to, but if there is no one else, I'll be happy to do the next one.
Let me tell you, I actually have Fran Capoletti who said he would be willing to do that. Do you guys want to talk first and maybe,
She emailed me shortly after, and I think she has a great topic too. So there's no preference on the order, I think.
Okay, so we'll leave it to you two guys. That's great.
Okay,
But I think if she's got it on her schedule and available, that would be great.
we can talk, Fran.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right. Is there anybody else? Because I do have something myself.
Oh,
Anyone?
I should ask a question then, following up to that topic. If it's an in-person meeting, how would that work? Would there be a way of projecting?
We went over that a little bit earlier and apparently it will work, and Edgar's gonna go there the week before. And if you or I are presenting, I would suggest we be there with Edgar the week before.
Sure. Okay, yeah, I missed that short part of the meeting. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, last call, although I've got something. Anybody else? Okay. I, after this last storm, got annoyed with the potholes coming up Arlington from Adams to Elm. Seemed to be the worst. And I was going to call Public Works, and then I actually saw them out there patching some potholes. So I thought, oh, well, good, somebody must have called. But they only patched the ones that were really big. There's still a bunch of them that are out there. So I'm not sure if this is something we need to talk to somebody, Edgar. Some potholes. And I mean, our street, of course, is the second freeway. When that's backed up, if you want to go to Berkeley, you take Arlington Boulevard.
Yes, so you can, so the way that we're doing it now, because there's, there's just a lot of requests. So what Public Works asks us to do is, the county has an app called Mobile Citizen, and you can take a picture of the potholes and the location, and then that would create a service request for Public Works to do any kind of, in this case, it will be repaving. And then it will create a receipt, and then they'll notify you once they're done. So that's usually what we're doing. And I've asked residents to use the app, and that way there's kind of a documentation of it. And if they don't have a response within a couple of weeks, then they can just let me know, and then I will follow up Public Works.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I wanted to ask Victoria, did you find anything yet on the Kensington Avenue blocked path?
Just a sec. Let me. Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, I talked to the title lady and she needs a specific address for where that path is located. And she wasn't able to investigate it, but if I have a specific address, are there two different houses, one on each side?
Yeah.
I was traveling, so I wasn't in town to go drive over there and figure it out.
Why don't you, let's email each other and I'll walk you up there.
Okay, yeah, she's happy to research it for us.
Because the path that's blocked is not part of the address of the house that fenced it off, it's part of an old, what used to be Kensington Avenue coming through to Arlington. So I guess that address would not work. I'll circle back with you. We
Okay,
can-
that sounds good. Thank you.
I know where you are.
Close by.
Right. So our next MAC meeting will be Wednesday, April 19th at 6:30. And Joanna Pace, go ahead.
Yeah, John, sorry, while you were talking about Public Works, I wanted to ask, so in the Mira Vista Facebook parent dialogue, there was quite a bit of talk about the flashing light there on the back entrance to the school. And now it looks like it's flashing all the time. And it seems, I think it's only supposed to flash during school hours or when kids are leaving school. So it looks like it's a problem again. Because it's flashing yellow all the time, as far as I can tell. And that means that people are supposed to stop there all the time.
Right. So I can answer that. So yeah, apparently there was an issue with the light that's on the intersection of Arlington and what's the other intersection? Hillside, I think.
It's Highland.
Highland. Yeah. And so it was flashing yellow at first, and then that was essentially just telling cars to, drive cautiously. But it's supposed to be flashing red when someone presses or the sensor gets set off. So if someone's crossing, it should flash red, and that should alert the driver to stop. And the reason why it was flashing yellow only, and this was a couple of weeks ago, is because the timer in the light was dead essentially. So we had to order a new part. Public Works they sent a technician and they were able to change that. But we know it's an issue. We know that road is an issue with traffic, and it seems to not be safe. So John scheduled a site visit with the parents from Mira Vista. We invited California Highway Patrol and also the traffic folks from Public Works to visit the site, see the traffic that's there, and discuss, possibly how we can make that road safer. And hopefully we're going to get a deputy who can be there sometime just to kind of, have a presence there during peak hours for folks who won't be driving incredibly fast there. So we are working on it. I think the date that we have for the site visit is the 22nd. Let me double check. I'm pretty sure it's the 22nd at 11 in the morning, but I'll have to double check. But we're essentially working on it, and John's aware of it, and we're aware of it to the point where John's going to visit the area and see what we can do.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
Comment, they need to see that road when the kids are leaving school, but they also need to see it around any time between 3 and 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the afternoon. I walk there all the time. And it's, I feel like if I were driving at that speed, I'd be pulled over. I don't know why the rest of the world isn't.
Right, and we're hoping to have a deputy there from the Highway Patrol, just to kind of, for folks can self-police after whenever the deputy's not there. So that's one of the strategies that we're looking at implementing. And also, I think the county had mentioned that they were going to see if they can order more lights or just more signage for folks can just drive a little bit slower in that area. So that's kind of how that discussion is shaping right now, which is essentially have more enforcement and have more signage for folks can slow down whenever there's no police officer in the area.
Okay, thank you. So last call, is there anything else?
Not quite related, but a while back I heard a big crash from my house, and I went down to 80 and noticed when I went from Solano onto 80, the metering light was taken out. Not sure if it's coming back, but that was a Interesting,
Oh.
I noticed.
Okay.
Try to get on 80 now, there's no metering light.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all. And with that, we'll adjourn and appreciate you all being here tonight. Have a good night.
Thank you.